Re- Okay. So it's 9:05 unless anybody, and I'm checking the comments and I'm looking at Facebook, I'm looking at the Facebook group. So I'm trying to see what are some of the things that people need or having some challenges with, or what they might need some help with. But one of the things that I did want to talk about was how to approach this business if you are a real estate agent or a real estate practitioner. So there are a lot of people that are joining the community who are licensed real estate agents, and they're interested or they're intrigued about, what it is that wholesalers do or operating as investors. And the reason that they're interested in doing that is because there are a lot of real estate agents that make good livings off of commissions. They make good livings, a good living helping other people buy and sell real estate. So they're great real estate agents. What they are not necessarily good at is becoming a good real estate investors. So a lot of real estate agents, they have their license. They're good at helping people buy and sell homes. They're good at earning commissions, but they're not good investors, right? A lot of them, the majority of them. Now, there are a select few who are licensed and they're great agents and they're also great investors, but they don't necessarily make that transition to the investing side. So if you are a licensed real estate agent and you're looking at this and you're saying, okay, so where do I fit in this puzzle? Where do I fit in, as the real estate agent and the investor and the wholesaler? If you are a licensed real estate agent or you're thinking about getting your real estate agent, there's a couple of things that I want you to consider on how you could benefit from a community full of real estate investors and real estate wholesalers. Number one, as an agent, with regulation coming down the pike, a lot of investors, a lot of real estate wholesalers are not going to be able to market properties until they are the legal owners of those properties. Okay, that's how they're already doing this in certain states. So I've talked about this before, but like one state in particular is South Carolina, where you cannot, and I think even Oregon now, you cannot market a property. You cannot market your equitable interest. You can't market something that you don't own yet. They consider that brokering, and you need a license to do that. Okay, so if you need a license to do that, well, what's the next step? The next step is you then find a real estate practitioner. You get the seller on board. The seller has to give you a limited power of attorney. And I've talked about this before, but a limited power of attorney just gives you limited power, right, for the property. And when you have a limited power of attorney, it stipulates exactly what you have power over. And so if you stipulate that and you say, well, all I can do is sign contracts to buy and sell this property. I can hire an agent. I can fire an agent. I can pay commissions. I will pay all expenses, et cetera, et cetera. You stipulate exactly what is going to show up on that power of attorney. Seller says, okay, I'll agree to that. I'll give you a limited power of attorney so that you can sell the property. Now, the next question is, and I'm kind of going in a circle here, but the next question is, why would a seller even be willing to give you a limited power of attorney just to sell the property? Well, because what you can offer as an investor is you can offer a guaranteed price, okay? So if you do your numbers right as an investor, and you go to the seller and you say, look, here is my best offer, and you give them that offer, and you say, this is what you are guaranteed. You are guaranteed this net. And if you've done your homework and you've done your research and you've made sure that you know what your numbers are, and you're getting the property at your maximum allowable value, which accounts for expenses like commissions, closing costs, possible repairs, right? When you are negotiating a price with a seller, you have to take all of these things into account. It always now, from now on, you have to take into account the possibilities of paying commissions. You have to take into account the possibility of the repairs. You have to take into account the covering the closing costs. So all of that stuff has to be accounted for in your purchase price when you're making your offer. So when you are making your offer to the seller and you are saying, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, I guarantee this price. I've done my numbers. This is the maximum allowable offer that I can make on your property. That is guaranteed. That is what you are going to walk away from. When you make those kind of offers, it sounds more compelling, right, to the seller versus someone that they're not so sure about, or an agent who may say, I'll list your property for this price, but there's no guarantee that we can get that price. What you can offer is something that a lot of other people can offer, which is a guaranteed price, a guaranteed net. Why? Because you're doing your research to make sure that those numbers reflect all of those expenses. But But Mr. or Mrs. Seller, in order for me to get you that guaranteed price, in order for me to get you that guaranteed net, all I need for you to do is to allow me to take the property to the open market, is to allow me to be able to hire and fire an agent, right? If I need to, so that I could find my end buyer. Because you know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm an investor. I'm going to buy this property to fix and flip it, or I'm going to buy it and sell it. That could happen after I become the legal owner. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I don't want you, I want you to know that there's a possibility. I'm going to have to mute everybody just 1 second. That there's a possibility, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, that I might even find the buyer before we close this transaction. I need you to know that. I need you to understand that that's my business model. That is what I do. You know I'm an investor. Once you explain all of those things, it's much easier for you to then say, okay, what I'm going to need from you so that I can hire and fire and work with an agent is a limited power of attorney only for the property, only enabling me to do that. And then I just need some reasonable access to the property so that I could get buyers through here, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. You're guaranteed this price. This price is guaranteed. Okay, that's what you're going to get. I take care of all the other expenses. I take care of commissions, repairs, everything else. That is on me. This is your guaranteed price, and I'm responsible for everything else. I just need you to work with me that way. So again, you do that, and now you've got what is called a novation. Now you can put the property on the market. So in those markets where they say you can't legally market a property that you are not the owner for, prior to or wholesaling, now what you're doing is you're doing a novation and you're getting the seller on board to be able to market the property with an agent. So now it's different. It's not you marketing the property, right? You're not marketing. Now we're hiring an agent to market the property and put it on the MLS and get the property sold. So you can do this novation strategy with any type of property. It can be a fix and flip, believe it or not. I mean, there's plenty of investors that put the fix and flips on the property, on the MLS. It can be a buy and hold. It can be a sub two. It can be a in-betweener property. In-betweener are the ones that I consider the properties that aren't a fix and flip property, but they're not like totally fixed up either, right? They're in-betweener, and you can put those on the property right now. We just sold one in Cincinnati, Ohio, or not sold. We just got it under contract using this exact same method. And this one was almost a probate that I got with Ben, who was my JV partner on it in Cincinnati. And we did the exact same thing. And the seller even had an attorney who was reviewing all of the paperwork. So even the attorney knew exactly what it was that we were doing. All right. Now, let me go back to what I started with earlier. So if you are a real estate agent and you're looking at this and you're saying, okay, so where would I fit in this puzzle? You as the agent have the opportunity to work with wholesalers, investors, people like us who are going to be getting these properties under contract, who might need an agent to help us put it on the MLS. Now, for those agents, this is an opportunity for you to earn a commission. Now, all things considered, if the wholesaler, if the investor is bringing you the opportunity, Mr. or Mrs. Agent, I'm assuming that you're probably going to do it for some type of a discounted rate, right? Because they're doing all the work. So for instance, when we did it with our deal over in Cincinnati, we negotiated the price, we negotiated the terms, we worked with the attorney, we hired the professional photographer, we came up with the copy, right? Which is, when I say copy, I'm talking about the sales description, which you can do now really easily with like Chat GPT or anything else that, that's out there, Gemini, Claude, Copilot, whatever. There's all different types of AIs that can come up with these sales descriptions for you. So we did everything. We've already handled everything. And all we did was we went to an agent. Her name is Mandy, and we say, hey, listen, we need you to put it on the market. Now, initially, we wanted to pay her just a flat fee of $3,500. She negotiated with us, and by the time we were done, we negotiated 3%, 1.5% to her, and 1.5% that is going to the agent that brought us the buyer. That's how it worked out, okay? But if you are a real estate agent, you want to make sure that if you're going to play with wholesalers and investors in our sandbox, that you're familiar with the strategies that we're using, because this is an opportunity for you, number one, to pick up more listings as a real estate agent. So, for all the agents that are calling wholesalers or investors or whatever we're doing, and they're, I've seen some pretty negative comments online. Keep in mind that these are the same people that are out there prospecting, getting business, and this is a chance for you to get those properties to list. You can list it for them. All right. So That's the first thing. Now, the second thing, as a real estate practitioner, as a real estate agent, right? If you're a licensed agent, the other reason that you might want to consider what it is that a lot of these investors and wholesalers are doing is because you can do this on a nationwide basis and you can scale this out. Whereas as a real estate agent, it's much more difficult, right? Because you have to be local. Being a successful real estate agent is all about being hyper local and centralized. Clients are going to want to see you. They're going to want you to be at the open houses. They're going to want you to be at the appointments. They want you to be at showings, et cetera, et cetera. They want to meet you face to face. It's a lot more challenging to do virtual business as a real estate agent. And yes, there's going to be some people that are going to argue, well, I can build teams. I can build other people in other states. I can open up other offices in other states. And that's true, but that's also going to require you to get your additional real estate licenses. And if you're not going to get those additional real estate licenses, it's going to require you to partner up with other brokers that have real estate licenses in those states. Then you got to establish you got to establish partnerships. There's a lot more work to it. So it sounds a lot easier. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying it sounds a lot easier than it really is. Trying to build this huge team of people working nationwide as a real estate agent. Can it be done? Yes, I've seen it done. I know plenty of people that are very, very successful at it. But it's much more challenging. Yeah, that's right too. It is these are the realities of it. And for those of you who don't know, I've been a broker for 25 years. Okay. I got my real estate license when I was 18. I got my broker's license when I was 28, and now I'm 48 this year. So it's been a journey for me for about 25 years. And the only reason I'm sharing this is because when I say most real estate agents aren't good as investors, it's because in all of my years of working as a real estate agent, I made a very good living selling property, but I just wasn't very good at investing or learning how to invest. And they don't necessarily teach real estate agents how to do that, okay? If you are an agent and you are licensed, here's my recommendation. I teach this to all of the investors and the wholesalers. My recommendation is you approach everyone as an investor first, even if you are a licensed real estate agent. So if you are a licensed real estate agent, I still want you to approach all prospects as an investor first. Investor first. Why? Because it's much easier to approach them as an investor first and then transition to a listing agent second if that's what you're going to want to do. Not every opportunity that we come across as licensed realtors or licensed agents, not every opportunity that you come across is going to be an opportunity for you. It's not going to be something that you're going to want to invest in, not all of them. But if you approach them as an investor first, you can then say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, listen, this isn't the right opportunity for me as an investor, but I'll tell you what, as an agent, I can put this property on the market for you. And, I can help you get top dollar for it, and I can help you get this property sold. So keep that in mind, that even as an agent, you still want to approach them as an investor first, because that transition is much easier versus the transition of, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm your real estate agent. Oh, and 2 days later, you come back and say, oh, by the way, would you accept my offer of like 55% less than what it is that I encourage you to list your property at, right? It doesn't look good. It's not a good look, and you're going to lose credibility, and you're going to lose that client right away. So investor first, agent second. Now, let's say that you are an agent or you're going to get your license, and I encourage everybody, who is thinking about it. If you're on the fence about getting your real estate license, go ahead and get it. Okay, it's only going to help you, and it's only going to give you additional streams of income. Is it absolutely necessary in order for you to do business as an investor or as a wholesaler? It is not. But I haven't talked about this really at all. And so I've been getting a lot of inquiries from people who are agents or from people who are about to get their license, or they're on the fence and they're like, should I get it? Should I not get it? So I thought this would be appropriate for me to cover now. If you are going to get your license, just look at it as another way for you to generate income for yourself, especially if you're approaching investor first, agent second, right? Because now you can get the property, or you could buy it, or you could assign it, or you could wholesale it. Now, if you are going to be an agent, you can't double dip, all right? And what do I mean by that? That means that you can't list the property for sale if that's what you're going to do, and then try to wholesale it or assign it. It's not going to work, okay? Number one, it's not going to work, and number two, it's a complete conflict of interest, so you can't do that. The only time as an agent where you can actually represent yourself and then assign it is when you are acting as the buyer's agent. So you now have a license, you're acting as the buyer's agent, and guess who the buyer is? The buyer is you or an entity that you're going to be, purchasing it under. It could be an LLC, it could be a partnership, it could be a corporation, whatever it might be. So you have a license, you are a buyer's agent, you're writing up an offer, and you're writing up the offer on behalf of an entity that you own. You write up the offer on behalf of that entity. You submit the offer to the listing agent, and on that offer, you are disclosing that you are the buyer's agent and that you have an ownership interest in the entity that is buying the property. That has to be disclosed on the purchase agreement to the listing agent. Now, when you do that, here's what happens. What happens is, number one, you fully disclosed it, but number two, you're submitting an offer on behalf of an entity that you own. And that entity can then do what? That entity can then assign the contract to another buyer, to another investor. You can wholesale it to somebody else. And there are some agents that are very, very good at this and very, very successful at this. So what these agents do is they write up the offer for their corporation. They submit the offer. They negotiate the best terms possible. Now, is that going to happen on the first offer? No. Sometimes it'll take 2 or 3 counter offers, right? So they're very, very good at negotiating prices. They do their homework. They do their research. They look at what the expenses are going to be. They look at what the repairs are going to be. And then they submit the offer, or they just go back and forth through counters, and they get the best price possible. And then remember that they're still an agent and they're a buyer's agent, which means that they can also negotiate a buyer's agent's commission, right? Because they're agents. So they can negotiate that commission. That commission can be anywhere from 1% to 3%, depending on what they can negotiate and what they can get away with. We just did another novation in Florida, and that buyer's agent requested 3% commission. And we had only gotten 2 offers after like 45 days or 60 days. So we agreed to pay her 3% commission. We basically said to her, look, if you can get us the price that we need, we'll give you the 3% commission. So anyway, buyer's agent's commissions are completely negotiable. So now you're the agent, you're representing your entity, you're requesting 2%, 3% commission, and then your entity assigns it to another end buyer. Because why? You've negotiated such a good price that there's a margin there for you to be able to make an extra $10,000 to $15,000, $20,000 on a wholesale fee, and then you assign it to that contract. So now in this case, only in this case, are you able to double dip, right? You're able to make a commission and you're able to make a wholesale fee because you are acting as the buyer's agent and your entity is then wholesaling it to somebody else, right? That's the only time where something like that will work, okay, as a realtor. So going back to what I was saying earlier, for those of you who are on the fence, right, and you're thinking, well, I want to get my license. Sure, you're going to have to go, do the courses that you need to take in order to get your real estate license. And then you get your real estate license, you can write up offers for your entity and then assign it, and you make money both ways. Now, why would an investor buy the property from you as an assign or, right, where you're assigning the contract to them? Why would they do that? Well, because you should have done a good enough job to make sure that there's enough of there's meat on the bone, there's enough profit for that investor in order for it to make sense. That then depends on your ability to negotiate. However good you are at negotiating that price is going to determine whether or not you're going to be able to assign it or wholesale it. All right. So I covered a lot of information from the get your license as a realtor standpoint on how you getting your license is going to benefit you. Because a lot of times, like I said, I see a lot of opposition. And because I play for both teams and I'm on both sides, I see this happening a lot. This isn't like we're against each other here, okay? If the agents can figure out how to work with the wholesalers together as a team, everybody can make a lot of money. And if you have a license, you can use that license and then make additional income for yourself. The only challenge is, remember, your license is only good for that one state. Okay, so you're only going to be able to do that in that one state. Now, there's a whole bunch of other ways to do it. You can try to get licensed in a bunch of other states. I've done it. And I will tell you that even that can be challenging because there's a bunch of courses you have to take. You have to renew, you have to pay the fees, you have to take continuation education. And so trying to do this for multiple states, it does take more effort, right? So, it's almost easier to just partner up with other licensed real estate agents or other licensed realtors in those states so that way they can work. So if anybody is listening to this and they're from the state of Florida, just a heads up, I am licensed as a broker in Florida and in California and in Nevada, which reminds me, I need to take my continuation courses for Nevada before the end of this month. But so that's me on my soapbox talking about how real estate agents, licensed realtors, or for those of you who are on the fence about getting your license, how you can benefit from the relationship with wholesalers, right? With investors, with people who are interested in learning how to do this and how to assign contracts. Because really what's going to happen is there's going to have to be some type of symbiosis. We're going to have to work together on this, especially as more regulatory change comes into play. All right, it's 9:26 and I've talked a lot. So I'm checking for any questions or comments right now just to see. I was about to say, Skip Trace, nice jersey, Paul. Yeah, all right. So let's talk about that. I got some more jerseys coming on. I'm a big sports nut, huge sports nut. And, for the first 28 years of my career, all I did was wear suits and ties. So now that we get to work virtually and do what we do virtually, I'm going to be getting some more merch for the team and more merch for us. So I'll slowly be unveiling it and releasing it on the site. And if anybody's ever interested, you're more than welcome to purchase it. Skip Trace Training Properties, and we'll give them a call tomorrow. Yes, Juan, make sure you give them a call. Action. You got to be on the phone or texting or emailing or DMing, whatever it is, but you got to do a lot of outbound marketing. Cool too. Yeah, same thing. I'm slowly going to start unveiling jerseys. The only challenge was that the company that is manufacturing them for me, what I did was I gave them NFL samples, and then they started throwing the NFL logo on there, and I told them you got to take that off because I'm going to get myself in copyright infringement, and so I don't need that. But anyway, this was the first run. Why did that get blurry? Okay. All right. Any other questions? I'm looking at Facebook comments, just so you guys know. All right. Any wins this week, guys? If you guys got any wins, I'd love to hear about it. Or if you guys need any help on deals, nothing right now. Okay. I am going to be doing this. For those of you who know, I do this every Tuesday. Okay? Every Tuesday. Now every Tuesday. It used to be every Wednesday. My son's schedule changed a little bit. So now I take him to school later on Wednesdays at 9:30. So I wouldn't be able to do it on Wednesdays anymore. So now I'm shifting them all to Wednesday. So they will be every Wednesday unless I'm on vacation or I'm in a conference or I absolutely can't do it. I want to dedicate at least one day a week for 30 minutes to be on here to be able to help everybody that has questions with like what's, with their deals or the transactions, or just to give straight up, advice on what I get during the week. So a lot of times, like for instance, today, one of the reasons that I covered the topic about real estate agents today was because I was getting a lot of feedback from people, and I'm noticing that a lot more agents are transitioning or dipping their toes in the water of investing in wholesaling, right? Which is great. I think it's great. But just understand that awesome. Merrick Project says I'm new, so I'm very interested in wholesaling. Absolutely. And listen, wholesaling, I'll say this and then I'm going to end it. So why do sellers like us? Why do sellers love us? Sellers love us, right? At least the ones who do a good, professional, ethical job. Sellers love us because we're able to help them help them sell their properties, right? And a lot of times they don't have the money to make the repairs. They don't want to allow people inside of their house. Some of them are very, very embarrassed. we are good problem solvers. So are a lot of real estate agents. A lot of real estate agents are good problem solvers, but especially us, because we see some of the craziest things that are going on. We see liens, we see fire damage, we see heirs arguing over property. We see all of this stuff because why? We are highly specialized at looking for fix and flip opportunities or subject to opportunities for investors. So we're always looking at, this is what we tend to focus on. There aren't as many agents that are really, really focused on the same type of niche that we are focused on with it, which is finding properties for investors. Finding properties for investors. Most real estate agents, unfortunately, they're really just looking, they want as much business as possible. And so they're going out there and they're really just trying to get as many buyers and sellers and as many properties sold as possible. Would you say wholesaling is mostly, if not all, comprised of properties that need work? Okay, that's a great question. So the answer is, it depends on who your end buyer is going to be. So if you're looking at fix and flips, your end buyer is going to be an investor that fix and flips. If you find a seller that has a very, very attractive interest rate, an interest rate in the 3s, and interest rates in the 4s. I last week during our call, I talked about a seller that I met that had an interest rate in the 1s, 1.75. If you have someone that has an attractive interest rate and a low mortgage payment, but they have no equity and they want to sell, that type of buyer is going to be an investor that's going to be a buy and hold, or it could be an Airbnb investor, or it could be someone that's going to use it to pad split or for midterm rentals. So my answer to your question is, not necessarily are all of them going to be fix and flips. You're just going to want to learn the different tools and the different ways. I got to give you the goggles so that you can analyze a deal 3 or 4 different ways and say, okay, I've looked at it and these 3 or 4 different ways, this is the best way for us to handle it. That's going to be our target buyer. That's really what I'm saying. That you can wholesale all types of deals. Math is right. So it's on the buyer, not the math. No, too, you're absolutely right. That's kind of what I was getting to. So our job is to be able to analyze a deal, figure out the best exit strategy, and then target the buyer that utilizes that exit strategy. I hope that makes sense. So when we're talking about if the math is right, you're absolutely right. It just depends on the type of math that we're using. The type of math that I'm going to be using for a subject to deal is not going to be the same type of math that I'm going to use for like a fix and flip deal. Those are going to be 2 completely different maths, if that makes sense. And so in that case, the formulas are all different, right? So when I'm analyzing, so what I need to do is I need to make sure that I do a good enough job of giving you all the proper goggles to analyze each deal so that you can say, okay, this one won't work for that one. This one won't work for that one, but this strategy will work for this, and that's going to be my target buyer, and that's who I should be going after, right? Like a novations deals, they tend to be higher priced, right? Why do they tend to be higher priced? Because those are going to be the deals that we're going to put on the MLS, and we're going to be selling it to end buyers. We're going to be selling it to like owner-occupant buyers, not the fix and flippers. Fix and flippers are going to want properties with deep discounts. So anyway, I can't really get too deep into it. All I can say is that there's different strategies for different properties. I want to teach you how to identify which is the best strategy for a particular property so that you can then find the specific buyers that are going to purchase it for that niche. I hope I ended it clarifying the way I wanted it to. If that makes sense to everybody, give me a quick thumbs up, just so I at least know that you understood that part.
You got 6 people.
We're good. Okay. Okay, perfect. All right, you guys. I have to get going. It's 9:34. Thank you for being on here. I carried on a little bit longer than I wanted to. If you need me, remember, you can chat with me through on Instagram. You can text me 626-765-4504. You can also find me on School, right? On School, you can go in there, you can message me, or you can chat me through School. All right, SKOOL, school.dispodragons.com. All right, let's get to work.